So the Quran also confirms that Jesus was sent to the Israelites. The Gospels also confirm that. The book of Matthew, chapter 15, verse 24 states that Jesus said, I was not sent to anyone but to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. This is clearly confirmed in the Quran. That was definitely said by Jesus Christ. We have no doubt that that statement was made by Jesus Christ in some shape or form in his own language. Also, the Quran confirms that Jesus Christ was sent to confirm the previous law. And again, the Gospel of Matthew clarifies when the man came asking him questions, when a man came asking Jesus Christ, what shall he do to attain salvation? Jesus said, follow the commandments, follow the commandments. We firmly believe that Jesus Christ had said that in some shape or form. So the Quran actually confirms those remnants of the original gospel of Jesus Christ in the current text of the New Testament. Not that all the text of the New Testament is authentic, authoritative, and the rest.
The New Testament, by his definition, the New Testament would be the corruption of the gospel, right? If you don't have the gospel of Jesus left, you only have remnants, then the gospel was corrupted into the New Testament. But yes, he's already admitted the Quran never says that the gospel has been corrupted. So the Quran never says that what he said happened. The Quran doesn't say it. He's acknowledged. This is complete incoherent nonsense. And notice he's doing the same thing he did with the Torah. Let's just go through, pick and choose all the little parts of the gospel, and we'll say, those were in the gospel of Jesus. And then anything we don't like, we'll say those things were changed, even though the gospel hasn't been corrupted. This is like, this is like what, I can't even speak on this. Like the level of critical thinking. You would not expect this horrible reasoning from a second grader. You know what I mean?
If he's right in his interpretation of Matthew 10:5-6 and Matthew 15:24, he just destroyed the Quran and his own traditions, proving Muhammad is a false prophet. Here's the irony, folks. He pointed to these passages as genuine remnants of what Jesus said. We know Jesus would have said something like this in his language, Aramaic, which we can comment on that as well. But if it's true that Matthew says Jesus was only sent to the Israelites, Muhammad is a fraud, the Quran is a fraud, he's a false prophet, so he's only helping us prove he's a false prophet. Why? He misquotes chapter 61, verse 6, in that he assumes that the Quran means he's sent only to the children of Israel. Well, I can play that game and show from statements in the Quran where because Muhammad was sent to the mother of all towns, to Mecca and to the Arabs, he's only for the Arabs. But then Adnan would tell me that's not fair. The Quran doesn't say he was just sent to the Arabs. Yes, it specifies that he came to the Arabs, but his message is for all mankind. Then Adnan, why are you doing that with what the Quran says about Jesus? Because folks, let me read to you what the Quran actually says about Jesus' ministry. And I'm going to quote Muhammad, chapter 19, verse 21, folks. Chapter 19, verse 21. What does the Spirit tell Mary about Jesus' mission? He said, so it will be, your Lord said, that is easy for me. And we wish to appoint him as a sign, ayah, to mankind, and a mercy from us. And it is a matter already decreed. Now, mankind, nas, he'll say, well, that means just one specific mankind. But hold on. Chapter 21, verse 91 of the Quran. Chapter 21, verse 91. And she who was chaste, therefore we breathed into her something of our spirit and made her and her son a token, a sign for all peoples. It uses two words in these two verses, nas and alamin. All beings, not just one particular group of people. And now here's what's shocking. Chapter 3, verses 3-4. You know what it says about the Torah and the gospel, who they were given to? Here it is, chapter 3, verses 3 and 4. It is he who sent down to thee, supposedly Muhammad, in truth, the book, confirming what is between your hands. And he sent down the law and the gospel before this as a guide to mankind, not just the children of Israel. And the word here is anas. You know why that's important? Because in chapter 2, verse 185, it says Allah sent down the Quran, which is for mankind, using the same language. The Quran is for anas, mankind. The Torah and the Gospel is for anas, mankind. If you're going to say the Quran is for all mankind, then you're going to have to be consistent and say the Torah and the Gospel is for all mankind as well. It uses the same language to describe the extent of the impact that the Torah and Gospel has on the world. For all mankind, for all beings, not just to the children of Israel. And then finally, here's what Muhammad said about Jesus' mission, or what Muslims said about Jesus' mission. Okay? This comes from Sirat Rasulullah, edited by Ibn Hisham, and I'm reading the English translation by Alfred Guillaume. Alfred Guillaume, page 653 in the English translation of the Life of Muhammad. Guys, pay attention, because it also confirms that Paul's a true, inspired spokesperson for Jesus Christ. Yazid bin Abu Habib al-Misri told me that he found a document in which was a memorandum. Tabari, the names of those, now he's getting this from Tabari, of the apostles sent to the countries and kings of the Arabs and non-Arabs, and what he said to his companions when he sent them. I sent it to Muhammad bin Shihab al-Zuhri. Now Tabari chimes in, with a trusty countryman of his, and he recognized it. It contained the statement of the apostle, meaning Muhammad, went out with his companions and said, God has sent me as a mercy to all men. So take a message from me. God have mercy on you. Do not hang back from me as the disciples hung back from Jesus, the son of Mary. They asked how they had hung back, and he said, how did the apostles refrain and pull back from Jesus? And Muhammad said, he called them to a task similar to that which I have called you. Those who had to go on a short journey were pleased and accepted. Those who had a long journey before them were displeased and refused to go, and Jesus complained of them to God. Tabari adds, from that very night, every one of Jesus' disciples was able to speak the language of the people to whom he was sent. Jesus said, this is a thing which God has determined that you should do, so go. Now, real quickly, do you see Muhammad confirms the day of Pentecost? He says that God miraculously empowered the disciples to speak in the language of the people they were sent to, showing their mission is universal. Their message is universal, and God miraculously enabled them to speak the language of the people group. So the rest of the part, let me read the rest of the part. Those whom Jesus, son of Mary, sent, both disciples and those who came after them in the land were, notice the name, folks, Peter, the disciple, and Paul with him. Wow, Ibn Ishaq. Peter and Paul were sent by God to represent Jesus, though Paul wasn't a disciple of Jesus, but a disciple of his apostles. Yes, and where did they go? Paul belonged to the followers, was not a disciples. They went to Rome. Surprise, surprise. Andrew and Matthew to the land of the cannibals. Thomas to the land of Babel, my ancestors, which is in the land of the east. Philip to Carthage, which is Africa. John to Ephesus, the city of the young men of the cave. James to Jerusalem, which is Aliyah, of the city of the sanctuary. Bartholomew to Arabia. Bartholomew, the apostle of Jesus, was sent to Arabia, which is the land of the Hijaz. Bartholomew was sent to preach to Muhammad's ancestors in Arabia, the gospel of Jesus Christ. Simon to the land of the Berbers. Judah, was one of the disciples, was put in the place of Judas. David, does this sound like the Quran and Hadith limits Jesus' mission and his followers' mission only to the children of Israel?
Yep. Keep in mind, Sam, the gospel was never corrupted, but it was corrupted. So anytime Allah is telling you one thing, he's simultaneously somehow saying the opposite. So which part of this contradiction aren't you willing to get on, Sam?
I don't know, bro, because remember, the Quran is miraculously, eloquently incoherent babble, brother. I'm getting it. That's the surprise.